Welcome to the Land Your Bet Sports Betting Podcast. Video number 2 here for Wednesday's NBA slate. We have 12 games, so I had to get more than just a handful of picks that I got you in the first video. But like and subscribe to that page so you can check that one out as well. And I'm just going to get right into it. Let me show you actually what we picked in that other video. I recommend checking it out if you want some of the reasoning and look at some of that stuff for yourself. I always love when you guys make these plays based on some of the info I give you, but make your own decisions as well and decide what you do or don't like. Shout out the people who've been talking to me in the comments about that. We've got Bruce Brown here with a little ladder. Some of this stuff is a little bit outdated, but I would still take Bruce Brown at 12.5 points where it's at right now. Curry, you can probably still find some 10.5s. If not, I don't know that I feel as comfortable with 9.5. The assist could be a thing. We'll see. I would still probably play it for decent juice, but not at the full unit that I have here on the 10.5 rebounds and assists. And Obi Toppin still doesn't have props out. I'm recording this at 12:30 on the West Coast, 3:30 Eastern time. Only about 3.5, 4 hours left until these games are going to be coming out by the time you guys see this video. Obi should have some props up, so we'll wait to see what those are, but you know that I like him to go over 10 or 11 points in this one, so we'll see if it comes out around that 10.5 that I think it is. If it does, then the 15 plus points in the ladder there should also be a pretty good bet, because that'll probably be at about 2-1 on your money, so a little sprinkle, right? When you do ladders, you're not putting a unit on the core bet and a unit on the secondary bet, right? The alt bet. You're putting a little bit of a diminished unit size on the second bet. But I just want to remind you, on the season, we are heating up on those Playa props, plus 21.8 units, 98 and 61. Here are 4 more best bets that I've got for you guys for Wednesday. So we're looking at a bunch of them here. Spread your units accordingly. You'll see not all of these are just a full unit. So it's not like I'm just slanging money around here. Like, we're at least like keeping it reasonable to about 5 units a day. Okay. So Aaron Gordon over 20.5 points and rebounds, minus 110 for a full unit. Shout out Nate Weitzer, co-host on the other show that I do that brought this one to my attention. Look deeper into it, and I do love it. I love when I see a guy consistently going over a number against a specific team, because that matchup is working for him. So only saw 20 minutes did AG in the blowout win that they had last game. However, in the previous 2, since he's come back from that injury, which shout out him for coming back so quickly. That was wild with the dog injury. If you don't know what happened, 23 points per game, 8 rebounds per game in those previous 2 back, and he's playing a good amount of minutes. And there seemed to be something, like, I don't want to play pop psychologist per usual, but there did seem to be something with AG in the way he came back and was like, this cannot affect how I play. And I need to prove that what I just went through, where a dog basically bit his hand and part of his face in a way that really messed him up, and he had to miss a few weeks, right? Like that happened on Christmas. He came back and was like, nah, this isn't going to be a thing. Don't even sweat it. He was joking about it, laughed it off. Dude's really solid mentally. Like, I'm really like happy to see the dude that he's grown into from the young player when he came in the league, and he's like a really solid dude mentally now. So I believe in him to keep coming back and like continue to prove this for a bit, that like he's more than okay, right? Utah does allow the 3rd most points per game to power forwards. That's why he's had so much success against them. I should be specific that it's a lot of success against them. In his last 8 versus them, with as a member of the Nuggets, 23 points and rebounds that he's averaged against them in those 8 games. Also seems to play better on the road, averages about 24, 25 points and rebounds combined on the road in his last 6 games away from Denver. So really liking what I see from him overall right now. And so I'm going to take him in a good matchup as my first bet in this second round of bets here. Second one that we're looking at here is going to be a Miles Turner under. This is one of those I'm going under 1 unit on, 0.75. because you can still get really good juice. And this is a really solid line discrepancy, meaning it's another instance for me to remind you to always shop these things and don't just have one book. Make sure that you have as many books as possible so that when you get the best number, that you go ahead and get it. Because this plus 110 is like 50, 60 cents better than minus 130 on some books. Did I do that math wrong? 40 cents better. 40 to 30 cents better than on some other books. But under 28.5 PRA is still a lot, even though I know how bad Washington is at defending centers. I do know that. I know that they're basically the worst team at limiting points and rebounds to the opposing center. I also know that like this is going to be another very fast transition game. A lot of what we saw the last time that this team played without Tyrese Halliburton, when they're playing the Heat, huge over there. Even the Timberwolves, if they had come along a little bit against the T-Wolves, there would have been a pretty decent over there as well. So in this game, not going to be seeing the T-Wolves defense, but I do still think that the pace is actually against Miles Turner in this one, and probably will be against Daniel Gafford as well. So we'll see how they match up, but it's really about where he's standing, right? And against the Washington Wizards this season so far, 8.5 rebound chances in 2 games and 3.5 rebounds in those games that he's averaging versus the Wizards, right? And that's a big part of this. It's up at 8.5 is the rebounds. rebounds. So I added it all because maybe you want to take under just rebounds, but I do like the plus juice that we get for adding the points and the 1 assist that they have him at, right? He actually tends to rebounds against teams that are bigger because he's playing closer to the basket. His rebound chances against the Timberwolves, against teams even like the Celtics when they had KP in there, and he was going up against Al Horford as well. Against the Magic, against the Knicks, against the Cavs, like he's got all these rebound chances against those teams where it's like these teams have big centers that he needs to actually bang down low, or they're not getting a single rebound because Aaron Nesmith ain't rebounding over a guy like Julius Randle, right? And other guys aren't going to be able, and neither is even at times Obi, right? Like there's guys that aren't as good at rebounding, and he knows that he needs to get down there and do it. So that's not one of those games. This game is one where, yeah, Daniel Gafford's down there, but no one's really worried about him as like a rebounding center. You're more worried about him blocking shots, right? More than anything. And honestly, that's why Miles Turner should be pulling him away from the basket because he can't do bupkis besides block shots in terms of Daniel Gafford. No offense. I like DG at times, but like he's not like your imposing rebounder that he's going to have to play there with. I will say he's gone under in all 3 without Halliburton. If you didn't see that Halliburton is out for at least a few weeks, I didn't see the exact timetable yet, but it's going to be at least like 2 to 3 weeks, maybe more, that Halliburton misses. So we do need to start like looking at all this stuff and going like, all right, what happens when Halliburton's out because he's too big of a force to not pay attention when he's not in the game. Without him, I still just don't see it affecting Miles Turner. It's not like Halliburton was getting a lot of his assists by throwing lobs to Miles Turner or what have you, right? Like some of them maybe, but Miles Turner isn't even always in that place. He's definitely leaving space. They play a 5 out basically. Maybe sometimes one guy goes down low. I'm not too worried about Turner. I don't even know if he'll need the minutes in this game. We'll see how close it is, but I'm going under for him as you saw me go over for Obi and Bruce Brown, right? All right, Brandon Ingram. This is an interesting one because Zion is still questionable, and I love Brandon Ingram's points now. I like over 22.5 points for Ingram, and I like a little ladder up to 25 plus for Ingram against this awful Warriors defense and Warriors team right now in Golden State. Not worried about that. I would also mention real quick, rebounds and assists for this man are not a bad bet by any means because he's basically, when Zion is out, wonderful opportunity for him to go ahead and get down low a bit more, get a few more boards. Also, the assists are there because it's basically he and CJ that can facilitate this offense. And when Zion's in, Zion's actually playing a little bit of point forward. So it's not like you can just rely on BI assists and rebounds when Zion is in there. But even when Zion is in there, you can still rely on BI points. So the point is, take BI points now. If you see that Zion is officially listed out in the next 4 or 5 hours, by the way, it's an early start on the West Coast for the Dubs. 5:30 p.m. on the West Coast means 8:30 on the East Coast, not the normal 10:30 that you would expect for a start time for the Warriors. So if you're watching this and you're talking about this Pellies game, you need to get your bets in earlier than you might think. 8:30 p.m. is when the start time is, 5:30 p.m. on the West Coast. Very important bit of info there for you guys who are trying to get your bets in, Pellies and Warriors. If you do see Zion is not in before that 5:30 p.m. West Coast start, go ahead and hit Brandon Ingram over 10.5 rebounds and assists. I apologize for not getting this on the slide, but it seems like the guys who and gals who are watching and not just sliding through and scrubbing to see the bets, but are actually listening to some of the shit that I'm saying, you'll now know that also I love rebounds and assists for Brandon Ingram over 10.5 if you still get it when Zion is listed out. In his last 2 without Zion, blowout wins against the Cavs and the Kings. So he didn't even play very much. He averaged 29 minutes per game in those last 2 and didn't really have to do much because everybody was hitting shots for the Pellies against those 2 teams. As I said, as they blew them out, won by 33 against the Kings, which who knows what's going on with them. But in the previous 4 that he played this season without Zion, so he's had 6 total games without Williamson. In the previous 4 without him, 30 points a game in 34 minutes. CJ McCollum was part of 2 of those games, so 2 of them were without him, and obviously BI's stuff goes up. But to be honest, BI doesn't really get impacted that negatively by CJ McCollum's presence. So we still feel good about CJ playing, but if Zion's not in, we love this. If Zion is in, like I said, the points are still a very safe bet. So that's why I'm okay with a little ladder all the way up, which I already did, right? And it doesn't seem like Zion's going to play. He doesn't have any props up. Books often know that stuff. I mean, they're monitoring injury reports as closely as anybody in this country. So I think the points for him will be going up a bit if Zion is officially listed out. But either way, like he's a great matchup in this one because the Dubs are not able to really defend in the mid-range. To be honest with you, they have a bunch of dudes that can guard the wings really well, and they have a bunch of dudes that guard down low, and they really don't have a power forward because they don't even really have a center, to be honest with you. I'll shout out Looney, who does his best, obviously, but he's still undersized in a lot of ways and not able to really move further away from the basket than you might want. your center to be able to do in today's NBA. All right, BI over. You get all the stuff there. And we got to go back to the old standby, man. And I still don't have props for D White here, Derek White, because he was it was heavily dependent on Kristaps Porzingis. Kristaps Porzingis was officially listed as out in the last like 30, 45 minutes. So now Derek White is a great bet. I will also say Jrue Holiday, another great bet. So let me go into that in 1 second, why specifically in this matchup they're a great bet. But it's the old standby, man. If you've been following the show, I bet Derek White over points and assists combined in 3 different games where KP was not playing. It took me a second to realize that this was a big thing, and then I looked further into it. And whenever Kristaps Porzingis is not on the floor, or even more importantly, not in the game at all, Derek White's numbers skyrocket for the reasoning that he's now a real point guard. When Kristaps is on the floor, Jason Tatum, Kristaps Porzingis, that's your 2-man game. That's the first focal point of the offense every single time down the floor is, what are Jason Tatum and Kristaps Porzingis running together? When Kristaps is not on the floor, they turn to Derek White as a true point guard. And Jrue Holiday has definitely taken the role of more shooting guard, sometimes backup point guard with the second unit. But for the most part, Derek White is the PG when Kristaps is not on the floor, and they run a lot more in and out, right? So he gets the assists on the kickouts. He's able to also drive to the rim much more easily because Kristaps isn't standing anywhere near the rim anymore. So the lane is pretty open for both he and guys like Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. Honestly, they're not better without Kristaps by any means, but this particular way of playing changes. That's why he's gone over. That's why he averages 20.5 points per game alone when Kristaps isn't in there. But we still haven't seen his points and assist prop rise above like 21.5 tops. So if you get this at 20.5, I'm still good with it, to be honest with you, against Minnesota, who is good at guarding point guards. Mike Conley's not in this game, although he's kind of a negative on defense at this point in his career, so kind of wish he was. But either way, like Derek White's going to be able to drive on whichever guard is on him. Let's get into the mismatch of this game real quick, and you'll also understand why I love a potential Jrue Holiday bet. I like a potential Jrue Holiday bet, and I love this potential Derek White bet as soon as we get it. Let me also just make sure while I'm talking to you and make sure I don't actually have a Derek White prop, because it could have come up in the last 20 minutes. But either way, to finish the point here about the mismatch, we've now got a big problem for Minnesota, because you're going to put McDaniels is going to guard Jason Tatum the whole game. Like if Tatum's on the floor, McDaniels is probably on the floor guarding him for the entirety of his minutes. No switches as much as possible. No, like, okay, it's a bad, I can't get to him. Like Jaden McDaniels is targeting Tatum every time to make sure he's the guy guarding him when he gets down there. Jaylen Brown, he's going to be guarded by Ant. You can't put Cat on Jaylen Brown. You just can't. So like Jaylen Brown's too important to the offense. I don't think you can put Cat on Jrue Holiday or Derek White. So more on that in a second, but you definitely cannot put him on Jaylen Brown. Let's put it that way. Then that means you've got everybody else locked up. You've got Tatum with Daniels. You've got Ant on Jaylen Brown. And then now we've got 3 dudes. Papa Al's got to be Rudy Gobert, right? Because like that's the only matchup for him. He's going to get completely barbecue chickened if he tries to guard anybody but Papa Al in that 5, right? When Al Horford starts for Kristaps tonight. So now we've got 3 dudes. Now we've got Cat that needs to guard one of Derek White and Jrue Holiday. And whoever starts at the other guard for Minnesota guards the other one. Big problem, right? Whomever Cat's guarding tonight is going to get cooked. Rudy gets onto him, he's cooked. You switch Rudy onto Jason Tatum to try whatever, you're cooked. There's a problem, a mismatch somewhere on the floor at all times. So either you need to take Rudy off the floor, or you just go ahead and get cooked, basically, with those mismatches. One of the Cat and Rudy can't play very much tonight at all. And even if they don't, and you get other guards coming in, you're not getting solid enough defenders to handle Derek White and Jrue Holiday by the time you're done putting your best defenders on Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. You get my point there. That's why I really love this bet. I went over that for like 30, 45 minutes with Kareem K, who we've seen on here, friend of the show, who some of you are mad at because he's had some lost bets recently, but he's still really, really sharp NBA mind. And so it was really good to talk to him about this and come to the conclusion that Derek White's a great bet, and we'll see Jrue Holiday's probably a good bet based on we'll leave that sort of up to when we actually have the props to decide if it is or is not a good bet for Jrue Holiday. But I'm hitting Derek White as soon as I see it because he's become an auto bet for me. So quick recap of these bets that I've got for you guys, and we'll get out of here. Aaron Gordon over 20.5 points and rebounds. Miles Turner under 28.5 points, rebounds, and assists. Brandon Ingram over 22.5 points with a little ladder up to 25 plus points. And Derek White over 19.5 points and assists combined would play up to about 20.5, maybe even 21.5, even though Minnesota's really good against point guards, right? And just to show you what the other bets were from this morning, once more, 3 more here: Bruce Brown, Steph Curry, Obi Toppin, points over for Bruce Brown with those ladders. As you can see, Steph Curry under 10.5 rebounds and assists, and Obi Toppin over 10.5 points. If it comes out, this is a lean because I don't know what it is yet, plus the 15 plus points. And that is all of the time that I have for you guys. Appreciate everybody following along. Oh, I want to shout out my boy Ev. My bad, dude. Fade me. If you don't follow Ev, Guy Boston Sports on YouTube, dude is the man. Also follow him on Twitter, Ev Picks there, Pickz, Ev Singleton at Ev Guy Boston. He's the man, dude. So I just wanted to shout him out because he gave me a Fade Me t-shirt. He's got some awesome swag. I really love this shirt. It says Fade Me on it. Got a really cool colorway. I know my screen's super small, so you can't see it. I'm just like trying to flash the camera, but I had to give Ev some love because he's my guy, and I really appreciate him sending me this shirt. So definitely check him out, man. He's got a video that he comes out with like every night for the night before for NBA with some great stuff, looking at games early, and then he does another like live stream around like 12 p.m., 1 p.m. I want to say Eastern time, maybe a little bit later than that. Don't quote me on it, but Guy Boston Sports is the YouTube page. Have no problem sending you guys over there as well because he's got great info. So check him out. Keep coming back here by subscribing and liking these videos. It's much appreciated. We're on a 13-2 heater, dude. Hopefully you saw that. 13-2 heater for the kids. So until I see you next, happy betting.